Well, hello, everybody. And I am Laina Orlando. I am just so grateful to be here with you today as we record episode 205 of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. This is it's a transmission that comes through me. I don't say these things. I don't speak this way or do it this in this format at any other time. It's been very specific that it had to be on Wednesdays at 12. And this is just the way that we do Ascensions with A Course in Miracles. And I trust that a divine knowingness takes over, and I don't have to come up with a theme or a plan or what to talk about. It's what is most important to be addressed in the moment for humanity as a message that utilizes A Course in Miracles to help make sense of what is happening. And as those of you who've followed me for a while, you know that since around 2016, 2017, I have been very clear that humanity that there is a big shift that is happening. I was on a spiritual journey up until that point for quite a while. And it was lovely. It was wonderful. About, I don't know, let's see, since 2012, 14 plus years. And I was blissfully ignorant to so much of what was happening in the world in terms of the connection between what is egoic and in some ways you could call it evil and what is of God. I thought I would do my spiritual awakening. I would come to know the truth of who I am, and then life would just get better. And and yes, it has in so many ways for me, but the deeper that I go into this journey, the easier it is for me to observe how the world is under a trance, truly under a trance. Every one of us who thought that we were free, we lived in the land of the free in America, the land of the free. We thought we were free, but humanity has been enslaved for thousands of years. And this is something that most spiritual people don't want to look at, don't want to hear about, don't want to have that conversation. It's conspiracy. It's, whatever. Today, those who understand the different levels of consciousness that we're moving through, meaning you know that you are when you're doing the emotional work, you're at the base doing actually, let me use this other chart. You're at the base doing the emotional work. You're down here doing the root chakra work that allows for the emotions to come into your conscious awareness, for you to be able to really get what's happening to your emotions, how your thoughts have been affected by your emotions. You have to look at all of that. There is no way to move deeper into the spiritual journey without looking at your beliefs and looking at your emotions, what has been suppressed, what has been used in many ways to help protect you. The ways we dissociate from our lives because of the trauma that we have endured. None of that is being denied by A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles says you have to do that work. As a matter of fact, it gives us exercise after exercise after exercises to help us understand what has happened to us, to bring into our conscious awareness that we hold attack thoughts, that we hold anger thoughts, that we hold judgments and resentments and guilt and shame. We hold that. We would not be given a book. We would not be given a manual that tells us exactly how our mind must be trained in order to allow for these emotions to come to the surface. That is part of the process. There is no way to get around that. Most spiritual people begin to experience, seeing light or hearing things or feeling energy. All of that is necessary. It is wonderful because it is activating aspects of ourselves that are coming online to be able to be in alignment with God. However, beginning the process of connecting to source does not deny, does not stop the process of letting go of your human nature, your human self, your identity, your egoic sense of who you are separate from God. Those two things have to be done, and they have to be done fully. You can latch on a little bit to source. I've known plenty of people, myself in several stages, where I connect to God, and I know God better. I understand, I feel, I experience the essence of creation better, not fully, but better. And the ego thinks, okay, I've arrived, that's it. And then there's the work that needs to be done to release, and we release them and we feel better. And we think, okay, that's it, I'm done. Well, no, not really. Then you got to connect to God a little bit more. You release a little bit more of the lower frequencies. So, in essence, you do the work of release here, you connect to God, you get the strength, you get the power to come back and do a little bit more. And you do a little bit more and you feel lighter, you connect to God, and you feel like you've achieved something. You things have changed drastically. And then wait a year, you're going to be back here doing some additional work of release, and then you're going to feel lighter and better, and boom, you're going to be up here. This is why people have been on their journeys 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years, and they're still learning because we're connecting to God and we're releasing what is of the ego, meaning we're moving more towards the light, and we're releasing more of what has been dark. We do that individually. However, it is being done collectively, and collectively means that one, two, three, four, 10, 20, 100, a few million people are doing their work on their own individually. Yes, many have teachers and masters and shamans and coaches. Yes, that's happening. Or they're reading books or they're in study groups. That's happening. But it's pretty much individually. Collectively, it is happening as well because all the individuals are inside of the collective. So we have 8 billion people. It's a collective of 8 billion individual people. The individuals, we see 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 100, maybe 1,000 of each other in specific groups or places that we're used to connecting with these people. But those are inside of the 8 billion that are doing the work that is necessary at this time to help us do one of two things. Either we are going to ascend, or we're going to remain where we're at, because if you are not prepared to own your power, then what you are saying is you want to stay disempowered. There is no way around that. Your words speak to what it is that you are wanting to experience. Now, we were not taught that, but whatever you are saying is what you are giving power to. So you have to understand that, becoming very clear about what it is that you're expressing, because it is what is creating your reality. If you're in fear, if you're angry, if you're mad, and if you're blaming so and so for whatever it is that they did, or you're upset about something that happened in the past, or worried about, the floods that might come to your area because you saw them happen in Texas. If you're in a state of worry, if you're in a state of expecting the other shoe to drop, if you need somebody to give you news for you to be okay, what you are saying is you don't want to accept that you are okay without any of that you are not going to be shaken by anything external to you, because you have found the source of truth within. Our language speaks. Even if we're consciously not aware that that's happening, it is happening, because whatever you say, this is so, that is so, and it will be the experience that you're going to have. I would probably say two of the most challenging things of having been a teacher, a coach for almost 20 years, is number one, people argue for their limitations. One of the most common things that I have experienced, especially early on, because I used to work with anybody pretty much at any level of their journey that they were. Now I work with people were more advanced in their journey, because if you believe that you are at the mercy, that you're a victim of the world that you see, you can't work with me, because I'm helping you remember you're the creator of all of it. So you can't be a victim if you're the creator. But early on, people would argue for their limitations. But this is really a terrible situation. My divorce is terrible. My child getting sick or getting kicked off the baseball team is terrible. I can't help how I feel. People would argue I'm limited in my experience of what's happening because I don't want to see it differently. Basically, that's what they were saying. So they were arguing for their limitations. They're limited in what they can do in the moment. I don't work with people at that level anymore because the nature of my work is very advanced. So I don't monitor what I say anymore to accommodate people who are at the beginning. There are plenty of teachers for the beginning, for the intermediate, for even the advanced intermediate. Really, for me, it's for those who want to own that they are the creators of their reality. Because at that level, how can there be a victim if you're the creator also? It's not possible. Now, interestingly enough, when you're the victim, you are the creator of it because you're creating that. But for you to own that you're the creator of your reality, you must stop thinking you're a victim. So it's all on you. You're the one who has to let it go. So that was the most important thing that people would argue was for their limitations. And then it became really interesting is what people the only thing that is blocking people from fully awakening today and having that experience of transcending their ego is the decision that they are not their ego, that they are not their human self. Once we make that decision, who you are as a powerful creator, creating and then infusing this physical vessel with all of the power that it needs, with everything that it's necessary to have a human experience becomes easy. But you are the one who has to accept that you not only create your reality, but all you have to work with is God's energy, the consciousness of creation. You don't have a body to work with per se. You are the consciousness that then makes a body for the purpose of this incarnation. And if you could create that kind of relationship with your body, I have a body like you have a car, like you have a bicycle. And don't make that the most important thing. Don't make, buffing it and waxing it and putting adornments on it, making yourself all prettied up and looking. If that's not your priority, which is why so many people, when they entered communities like churches, like temples, like monasteries that would all wear the same color, no makeup. They would be in a state of completely not paying attention to the physical body so that they could become more focused on the spiritual essence of who we are. Now, we don't have to go through those drastic measures to come to know the truth of who we are, but you cannot come to know the truth of who you are while you're believing that your physical vessel is more important than your connection with God. And it's amazing how many people the connection with God, we want it, but it's not primary. And the reason it's not primary is because the most important things is, oh, what do people think about me? How do I look? Am I put together versus am I being the presence of love here? Am I being the essence of the creator here? If you want to really test, are you committed to love or are you committed to the ego's appearances? Go out there into the world with no makeup on. Go out there wearing your frumpiest or least taken care of outfit, your most tethered t-shirt, and see what happens. I mean, there are people who actually will do that. Who will, I've seen some TV shows, people well to do and they'll dress down to fit in just to see how people treat them. And that's how you can gauge, well, not only the only way, but a way to gauge what is your priority. Because if the priority is to be the presence of love, what you look like does not matter. It will not matter because people will feel the essence of your love. But if we're not focused on love being the priority, while we use this body vessel to extend, then the ego will use this body vessel to what can I get out of it? How can will people think nicely of me? Which is just another way of keeping us in an immature state, seeking outside of ourselves for validation, for approval, for acceptance. While we're looking outside of ourselves, we are not looking within ourselves. Yes, does it go back and forth and do we bounce these ways? Yes, we do that. We connect to God in the evenings. It used to be only on Sundays that we connected with God, for an hour, and then all bets are off. And then we enter this practice and we connect maybe more regularly, maybe once a day, twice a day. You do the lessons and you're connecting to the course multiple times a day as you do the lessons. But overall, do you live your life from the inside out? Are you extending the love that you are? That is what this body vessel is for. When we realize that the ego has used the body to hide from God, I turn my head on God and now I need an audience to look at me. I need the audience's attention on me. Whether it be negative or positive attention, it doesn't matter. As long as the ego is getting attention, it will take any form of attention. People who get in trouble, people who are consistently in trouble, let's say the kids in school who are misbehaving constantly, requiring the teacher's attention, they're getting attention. They probably don't get it at home, but they come to school, and the way that they get it at school is by misbehaving. Because if everybody is being good, they don't get specific attention, individualized attention. So we have to get really clear that the ego has taken this vessel, this body, and it is using it for its own means. Pay attention. Are you using the body to get something, or are you utilizing that body to extend something? And the extending is the love of God. Now, the ego uses the body to extend anger, to extend judgment, and to extend fear just as easily as it wants to get attention, as it wants to get people to look at me and say, "Oh, how beautiful or how handsome or whatever it might be." So we have to get clear about what the body is for. And the course is such a simple teaching that breaks it down and what is of the body and the ego and what is of God and what is non-physical. We are all made of consciousness. We're all made of pure energy. The Course in Miracles does not address energy specifically. I did an article about that not too long ago. So go to my newsletter. You will find it on my website. Find the newsletter and find that article that I spoke about how A Course in Miracles addresses energy. And the energy, in essence, is in our thoughts. Our thinking is what powers all of creation. So if you think of the thoughts that activate the process by which a thought comes into shape, and an idea happens just as we are ideas in the mind of God. So God has an idea and it expands, and we have an idea and it continues to expand. That expansion, that is energy expanding, it's moving, it's going, doing its thing. So we have to learn how to harness the power of creation, but consciously choosing to create with love, with God, in service to, while we recognize that we have a body for a temporary time. That is one who is awake, serving God, utilizing the body as Jesus did, as Buddha did, as so many have done. Gandhi did it. Martin Luther King Jr. did it. We've had plenty of people and we have them on the planet right now who are utilizing their body in service to humanity. Not what they're going to get out of it, but in service to humanity. And then we have the bulk of humanity who cares more about me and myself and I and the selfishness, the greed that comes from the ego, which of course incorporates, hey, look at me, how special am I? Last week, we continue looking at the chapter, which is chapter 23 inside of A Course in Miracles. In chapter 23, the title is The War Against Yourself. And after I read from that chapter, we completed the paragraph, the first paragraph, I was guided to take us to lesson 31, which is there are, I am not a victim of the world I see, because we were in the middle of 4th of July week here in the US, and chapter 31 speaks to that if you acknowledge you're not a victim of the world you see, meaning you're the creator of it, that is a declaration of your independence. You are declaring you're no longer at the mercy of what anybody else thinks. But while you are focused on try to range what's happening in the world, if you are not doing it consciously aware that this is not the final, this is not the ultimate reality, you will get swept up in the things of this world, and they will become distractions from you being able to really get to know what God is and allow God to work through you. And I am going to tell you, this is not for the faint of heart. Sitting there and going, nothing can hurt me. Nothing has the power to make me feel bad, to make me feel sad, to make me feel angry, to activate any fear, unless I decide that I want that fear, that I want that guilt and that shame and that judgment. Unless I decide that I want to experience it, it cannot have power over me. And that's really where I see that people are being basically divided into two camps as I look at it. Because I see those who are totally, completely aware that they're creators of their reality, and they are doing whatever it is that they can to make this world a better place in so many ways of service, in so many ways of just being the love and the presence of high frequency on this planet. Their messages are very clear, cut and dry about what God is and what we're here to do for one another as brothers and sisters. So, the other side is basically maybe very spiritual, but is still believing that the outside has power over them. So when we come into chapter 23, and it's the war against yourself, you're warring. All wars, when looked at it through the spiritual lens, is a war against yourself. God created you powerful, created you to create like God. God created you totally and completely capable of creating heaven on earth. If you don't have that, it's because you don't want it. And I know that this sounds pretty harsh. What do you mean? Of course, I want to be happy, but I'm not happy. If you're not happy, you don't want happiness. And the reason I'm saying you don't want it is because it's already been given to you. So if it's already you, it's already what you are. If it's already in the essence of your being, if you don't experience it, it's because you don't want it. Now, I don't mean that you are deliberately thinking, oh, I don't want to be happy today, but it's that you're not deliberately saying, I am going to own and claim my happiness today. If you are not consciously saying, I'm going to stay neutral all day long, I'm not going to be reacting, this world has no power over me. If you're not committed to that, then you're committed to the opposite of it. You're committed to letting things bother you, letting things be okay. If it's, bad things happening, and terrible things are happening, but I am not going to be bothered with that. Well, when we move further up that process, and we are aligning more with the truth of who we are, we're connecting to the oneness. We cannot not help to recognize that everything that affects this world is affecting us. Now, it's not affecting us in that it can't pull us down to make us feel bad, but it is part of our frequency. So we have to raise ourselves above the battleground. This war against yourself is you moving up and looking at your life from a perspective where you can see all the characters, all the players, including in the world stage, and you can see where everybody is playing the role that they're playing, all in service to the greater good. Whether they know it or not doesn't matter. It is all ultimately in service because everything is coming together. Specifically right now, we're in the midst of a time that even though in timelessness, time does not exist, but in this physical reality, this third dimension, 3D world planet that we live in, we experience time because it's just part of what we are allowed to experience when we are not fully completely aligned with source. We experience this sense of reality. It's like a movie star that goes into a set. They go into a set for a movie and it's got things there in that set. For example, let's say they're playing a role as a swimmer and they have a swimming pool and they have all these extra bathing suits and all of these equipment to for training in the water. They'll have that on the set, but they go home and maybe they don't have any of that. Maybe they don't even have a swimming pool. Maybe they don't even like going to the beach, so they don't even have bathing suits. So they can leave their home without any of that and then have an experience where that is a reality. Same with us in where we live in oneness as pure consciousness with God. There is no time, there is no space, all is one. But then we enter into this reality, into this set, the 3D set, you could call it. It's like being in Hollywood and you get your own set. And in this set, we have time and space and all of those things to allow us to have these experiences. Well, when you become more aware of who you are, you realize what is true, and then you acknowledge what you are experiencing in the moment in this particular area temporarily. So you don't get attached to any of it. Just as the actor doesn't get attached to a swimming pool because they don't really, that's not something that they do normally. Why would they be attached to that swimming pool? But humans come down and forget that they're playing a role and they get attached to the swimming pool and oh my, it's mine, it's special. And I need everybody to see how special I am and I have at the swimming pool. I'm going to have the parties so everybody can see my pool. Then you lose your job, you lose the house, you lose the pool. And who are you without all of those special things that drew people to your experience? So moving above the battleground is to be able to see everything. It's like you have one foot in truth, you have one foot knowing that you're not a body, one foot knowing you're pure consciousness, and then you have one foot in this earthly plane. So you're straddling. The fourth dimension is like straddling a bridge, moving out of 3D. I am a body, I am my ego, I am, what I think I am. Two, I I am consciousness. I am pure eternalness. I am not this physicality. I have one, but this is not what I am. The mind has to be fully trained. To move above the battleground, you have to think with God and understand the ego so that you can play this game unattached to it totally unattached. The Course in Miracles prepares us to do that. And this is the time where we have to get really clear that everything that the world has been teaching us by those who have fallen into the illusion of the ego and over generations pass down this information, and then you're raised with that. And you come in and you're born into a lineage and you're raised inside of those traditions, those cultures, those religious beliefs, those financial ideas, whatever they might be. We are beginning to see that the bulk of the thinking, the bulk of the traditions, the bulk of the religious rituals that have been created block God. They absolutely block our awareness from being connected to God. So when you make a commitment to spend time with that war within, when you're beginning to wake up, you're really seeing that you don't fit in. You don't think this way anymore. You want to do things differently. But you're willing to face your fears where maybe before you didn't. That battle inside of you of who you were and what you do to keep the peace, what you do to make sure that everybody is taken care of versus what you know is yours to do as one who is waking up as the creator of your reality, claiming a level of courage, claiming a level of transparency, honesty, open-mindedness. You're disagreeing with mom and dad. You're not going with them politically anymore. You're not going with them maybe religiously anymore. And all of a sudden, you're finding your voice, but you're not afraid to use it because you're not here looking to what people think about you. You're no longer immature, and immature people need the outside to validate them. Those who have found their inner voice, they're guided from the inside. And that's really how I tell the difference. Somebody who's mature is listening to God within. Somebody who's immature still needs validation from somebody else. Somebody else is going to make your day. Somebody else is going to break your day. That is a level of immaturity that we have to address. One of the characteristics of a teacher of God is honesty. Honesty means consistency. Are you consistently remembering who you are? A child of God that doesn't need anything from anybody else. Yes, in the human experience, our car breaks down or we whatever run out of gas. Yes, it's wonderful to have help, but you experience that because you're entitled to that. And you put it there to show you that you don't lose your peace, you didn't lose your calm, you were generous, willing to help, willing to thank them, willing to give them money. Maybe they don't take it and you just go, thank you for helping me. I'm entitled to miracles. You know it in your every fiber of your bone that you're entitled to it. So things will happen just to remind you that you are a beloved child of God. We are at the time that we have got to understand that moving above the battleground in our personal lives was one step. Moving above the battleground in the world, on the world stage, is a whole nother step. And we have to be prepared to see that anybody who is operating in low frequency, anybody who is still judging, anybody who's still um, stealing, anybody who is still operating in the backgrounds and they don't want to be seen. It's like so many of these we hear about these billionaires who fund all of these things, but we don't really see much about them. We hear about them, but we don't see. Why do they not show their faces? Why are they not out there expressing themselves? Well, you will find out that the ego loves to stay in hiding. The more power the ego has, in many ways, the more it doesn't want to be seen because it can do a lot more behind the scenes. It doesn't want its business out there. Being on the stage and having the cameras flashing, that's kind of a middle level kind of a thing. You put all the movie stars and all the people, the politicians who want attention and socialites, oh, they want the camera. And they're a distraction from those that we cannot see doing whatever it is that they're doing in the background. And humanity has got to get smart, but we can't see really what's going on the world stage if we're still operating in fear and worry and those low frequency thoughts. Because when we are operating in low frequency thoughts, we're not fully available to be used in service to the greater good of all. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not being used, but not fully available to be used for the greater good of all because we're so worried about our own little things. We're operating inside of the small area of what the ego operates in when we're operating from our root chakras, where fear is still prevalent. So above the battleground, we saw that, in the first paragraph, do not remain in conflict, for there is no war without attack. If you're attacking somebody else, if you're attacking yourself, you've got to recognize that all conflict, if you say you want to be aligned with God, but you're still in fear, that is inviting conflict. You're going to attack yourself. Oh, I'm not being spiritual enough, or I'm not doing this right enough. I'm failing. However, the ego manifests through you to attack you or to attack others. Oh, they didn't do this for me, or they whatever, left me out, whatever it might be. We have to understand that it is time for us to make an allegiance with God wholly, 100%. If you are truly aligned with God, then your commitment is to be loving. Your commitment is to be trusting. Your commitment is to be open-minded. Your commitment needs to be neutral, to be in a state of neutrality, because that's what happens at this high frequency right here, neutral. We have to come to the heart. And from the heart, neutral means you don't you don't have to speak for this side or that side. In your heart, you know what you belong to. And when you're committed to God, you're committed to love, you're committed to kindness, you're committed to compassion, but you're still operating in the frequency of courage. And the frequency of courage says that you stand up for what you know is right. You just don't have to mow anybody down. You will be guided. You will feel the impulse to start a company or to be in politics or to do something that in some way appears to be helping humanity in a bigger way. But when your heart is fully committed to being the love that you are, there is no room for fear. You just, and if there is a little room for fear, because it's still there, you're still doing your work. I still have fearful thoughts. So let me just be clear about that. I see them as they rise. I see them as they begin to be formed, and I can immediately shift and lift out of that because I have to shrink to entertain the ego. To know God is to be to feel like you've got the armor, like you've got the cloak, like you've got the sword of truth. We read a book in a group not too long ago, and you are fully completely that's what courage is. You know that you're going to be okay because God is with you. So just if there's no conflict, there's not going to be an attack. Then we looked down in that paragraph and we saw that what is not love is murder. And to murder somebody's character, to murder somebody's body is basically the same thing. If we're not loving ourselves, if we're not loving somebody else, what we're doing is we're murdering their character. We're attacking ourselves and I'm not good enough. That's murdering our character as God created us. We have to understand that when you take these words, love and murder, and you look at them side by side, what is not loving is going to be murderers because it's going to be cutting somebody down. It's going to put them down. Whether it's me or another person, it is putting down a child of God. So we want to look at it in this particular example in that drastic way to hopefully jolt something in us to say, wait a second, I don't want to continue to be in fear and in anger and in jealousy and in worry. That's murdering myself because you're dripping slowly, you're pouring poison into your body with those low frequency beliefs. Then he goes on to say that what is not loving must be an attack. So when you make the commitment to just be with God, you are not going to care anymore about what anybody thinks about you because you are here in service to him who sent you. Period. And to get to that level, you have to have surrendered all those things of the world. So this is one of those ways to test how far am I? Am I 80% towards God? Well, then I've got 20% of still I need safety from the world. I still have some fears. Am I 50% with God? Then 50%, you need approval from the world. Are you 20%? Most of us we're operating maybe 5% with God, 95% with the world. So if you can untether yourself enough to where now you're 90% with God and 10% with the world, you're doing fantastic. I mean, like amazingly fantastic. To get to 50-50 is a feat in and of itself because once you're moving into that 51%, you know you can't lie to yourself. You know that if you're lying to yourself, it's going to catch up pretty quickly. You're going to know it pretty soon. But before you bound or bond with God in that way, it's easy to deceive ourselves. So then we are told that every illusion is an attack on the truth, and we have to understand that every illusion, every time you're in fear, it's an illusion. You're attacking the truth. You're saying, "Oh, I can't handle this." Every single time we are in worry, it's an attack on the truth. It is murdering your character. It is saying, "I'm a weak person." But you're saying that you are weak while at the same time you're quite strong playing the character of being weak. Again, back to the actor. The actor who plays the character of somebody who gets beaten up in a battle, in a fight or whatever it is, and gets all bloodied On the set, it's the same actor that gets up and goes, wow, wasn't that a great performance? Wasn't that a fun thing? I'm so glad I played that character. I've never been beaten before, and I had that experience. How amazing is that? And they go home without a bruise on them. But on set, my gosh, they were totally covered up with makeup so that they could appear fully bruised. So even if you don't remember that you are the creator of your reality, you're creating every single bit of your reality. Now, this is the kind of message that people get so upset about. How are the victims, that are being hurt around the world creating their reality? Well, down here, they don't know that. When they're operating in the lower frequencies of hunger, of anger, of judgment, of fear, they don't know that. This is a journey of expanding our awareness so that we can begin to understand what's happening here, because it is the recognition that we are contributing to certain things and, well, to everything in this world, that we can then pull our power back and decide, I don't want to play that game anymore. As trite as that sounds, it is that simple. You have to decide you don't want to participate in anything that is not loving anymore. The decision has to become this or that. The time of playing with both is almost over. It must be one or the other. Paragraph number 2. What can be equal to the truth yet different? Murder and love are incompatible. Yet if they both are true, then must they be the same and indistinguishable from one another. So will they be to those who see God's Son as a body. If you believe that killing somebody and loving them is the same thing, because listen, we have people who literally believe that their love for God, their God, whatever God, the description of their religion is, their love for God allows them to murder others. Our Christianity, I mean, I grew up Christian, so inside of Christianity, I heard about all of the inquisitions that were done, the Catholics going out there, the Protestants, I mean, all of these people killing each other in the name of this God that was demanding this from them. And this is the God that they supposedly love because it's the God that they fear. When you see how the ego intertwines love and murder, God, love and fear, and somehow makes that make sense, is absolutely crazy. But we have done that. We have accepted murdering and hating and hurting all in the name of God. So God has been relegated to a God that sometimes likes you, sometimes doesn't. And if it's on your side, boy, it's going to be good for you. It's not on your side, well, we may even kill you. That is all made up and nonsense. That is not the truth of a God that is the creator of all of creation, who creates to extend. If God really promoted murder, then there would be no life. But if God is promoting and creating, which it is, eternal life, then we must wake up and access that life, align with that life in service to it, to expand the kingdom. And these are the kinds of things that are so difficult for people to understand. Every attack thought on you, a judgment, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable enough, I can't do it because I get all flustered. All of that is pure murder to the character that you are as God created you, to the soul that you are, the holy being that you are as God created you, whole, perfect, and complete. So if you want to be worried and nervous, you want to play that role, but that is not the essence of who you are. The child of God that you are does not need to be worried and concerned and flustered and upset. That's not part of it. So if you're having that experience, you want to experience it. And again, I know some of these things don't make sense until they begin to make sense. So I'll just continue to share. You take what resonates and leave what doesn't. So, sentence number 5, for it is not the body that is like the Son's creator. Our bodies is not what we are as a child of God. And what is lifeless cannot be the son of life. A body that has lost its life cannot be the child of God. And Jesus did that example for us on the cross to show us he is not a body. A Course in Miracles is written to highlight that we are not bodies, but the attachment to the body, the need to use the body to get attention or to show people, oh, I love you because I have a body and I can hug you. That is strictly for the human performance. Nothing wrong with it, but you have to get these things in the proper order in your mind. Because if the body comes first, you are going to suffer greatly. You are not going to have a connection with God if the body comes first. If you are aligned to God first and the body becomes secondary, you're going to have a freedom, a level of peace that passes all understanding because you're not going to be beholden to anything outside of you. You're going to be using this body vessel to bring forth a message of love. That's what Jesus did. He used his body and said, you know what, if they're going to crucify, they're going to crucify it. But I'm not the body. So what rose in the third day? What came out of that physical vessel that was laying there, or in the tomb? What came is the Spirit of God that cannot be bound. They cannot be killed. They cannot be, tied down. That cannot happen. So we're looking to awaken and unleash this incredible power that is inside of us. And when we operate from that power that is within us, which is the love of God, this world will know no more suffering. But every time we are okay feeling bad or feeling scared or feeling worried, then we are saying, well, give me a little suffering. It's okay. I need to have a little bit of it because, if I was all happy all the time, then what would there be to do? A lot, a lot. You just sitting in your home without an ounce of worry, rippling out a knowingness that this whole planet can ascend if people choose to, would be doing so much. But every time we're in worry and fear and in concern and in guilt and in shame and in judgment, we are pulling energy from ascension and holding that frequency right here, holding it in the low vibes of the ego, feeding the third dimension, letting that be your reality. And again, not because anybody's telling you to do that. God's not telling you to do that. Sure, we were all indoctrinated to do that, but waking up is a coming out of the indoctrination. So if you're still doing that, it's because you want to do it. I cannot stress enough the importance of acknowledging that nothing is happening to us that at some level we haven't asked for. And that's spiritual maturity because you have to use that knowing that if I'm the creator of my reality, then how can I co-create what I prefer in service to the greater good? That's why we got to pull our energy from all of these judgments and worries, take that energy, harness it, and move it in the direction of what it is that we prefer to experience. So don't think that anybody that has ever been murdered or anything that has ever been done to hurt others, that was the end of the holy child of God. It is not. It is the end of that temporary body. But the holy child of God is that eternal being that is going to go on forever. In this lifetime, other lifetimes, it does not end. Excuse me. Sentence 7 says, how can a body be extended to hold the universe? When you're thinking about a body and you think about the child of God, a child of God, powerful beyond measure, eternal, and a body, how can this body hold the entire universe? A body can't do that. The holy child of God, Jesus, who was crucified in what seems like 2,000 years ago, is still today giving us information through the channel teachings of A Course in Miracles, through so many channels. There is such expansion to what the being that we know as Jesus, as Jeshua, is all about. This child of God that all of us are, to come to know how can we be as that and hold the entire universe, share the entire universe with one another because we recognize that we are unlimited. That is the freedom that we're moving toward. that, oh, poor Jesus got crucified on a cross. That is not the story that Jesus came to tell. Jesus came to tell the story of the resurrection, not the crucifixion. But what has happened is that those who listen to the voice of the ego, those who operate from using fear to keep people in line, have have totally corrupted the story of the crucifixion to scare people to, well, you don't want to be that close to God, because if you're that close to God, look what he did to his one son. You're not even his cousin. You're not even his fourth cousin. Don't you think God's going to do worse to you than he did to his own son? Well, we're put all those nonsensical stories in our head to confuse us about the nature of who we are. That's why learning about quantum physics and understanding who we are energetically is so key. Because when you begin to feel the energy, the frequency of unconditional love in every cell of your body, you literally can vibrate yourself, expand into expansion, and bring yourself back into this present moment, and know that what you are is not confined by this physical vessel. But as long as the outside is important, and the taxes are important, and the money is important, and what people think of you is important, and all those external things are important, then the 3D world is still very appealing to you. There's nothing wrong with that. But we cannot ascend without honesty. It's just not possible. We can't say, but I want this, but I want to hold on to this. You can for a while, you're going to get pulled from both directions. And of course, God's not pulling you, but you're going to feel a little uncomfortable until you decide that there's nothing in this world that is worth holding on to. Because when you're committed to total liberation, holding on to stuff is not what you want to do. What you want to do is release it so that you can experience that peace, that certainty, that clarity, that nothing compares to it in this world. Nothing. The next sentence says, sentence number 8, can it create? Can a body create and be what it creates? And can it offer its creations all that it is and never suffer loss? Do you think bodies don't experience loss I mean, the floods in Texas, a lot of people are feeling like they lost their child, they lost their parent, their sister, their brother, their neighbor, their schoolmate. A lot of people are feeling a lot of loss because that's what the ego does. Again, that movie star that plays the role, what their life looks like is going to be usually very different than the roles that they're playing. And they take on some roles to challenge themselves because they can. It's a temporary experience. Well, those roles, they can certainly play the character, but can that character create? Can that character really have the power to create? No, not really. Our bodies don't have the power to create. Our bodies can make things. We can sit there and put things together, but nobody who is using their body is throwing a planet into orbit, is casting stars in the sky, because no human body can do that. Only the mind of God can do that. And we have to tap into the mind of God by training our mind away from the ego into full alignment with God. It is in that alignment with God that then we can begin to harness the power that is allowing us to co-create a fifth dimension. That means that we're going to be in this world, we're going to be on this planet, we're going to be on this planet that's ascending, and understanding what's going on here requires that you not be in these lower frequencies, but rather align to the higher frequency so you can see above the battleground. And the battleground is not your own personal stuff or your family issues or your community stuff or even your country or your planet. It is moving beyond, and beginning to open up to the dimensions that there are, all leading you, and this is a kicker, all leading you to a place where you are so expanded that in that expansion, there are no dimensions. There's only the oneness experiencing and expressing itself in all of these amazing ways that it can be done. But you have to decide to little by little, and it doesn't have to be little by little, I'm just saying that, to move above the battleground, to get clear about what is the truth that you want to live by, and then do that. If you still worry about what others think, you're not ready for that level of freedom. But you are, it's okay to receive knowledge and have all that wonderful knowledge in your head. But what gets freed is the heart. The heart is free to be itself. But it is only free to be itself when you no longer care about what anybody else thinks about you, because you have come to know what God knows to be true about you. And when you discover that God knows that you are the prodigal child, you are the infinite child, like Jesus, eternal, death cannot hold you down. It can the body, but you're not a body. When you get to that place that you really, truly take that to heart, amazing things are possible for one who is committed to that level of liberation. And when you commit to that level of liberation, what is possible is literally beyond description, because every one of us is going to feel a desire to be part of an expansion that is beyond our wildest dreams as an ego. We got to get out of the egoic limitation. Yes, some people have smaller boxes, some people have bigger boxes. They're all boxes. We got to just get rid of the box altogether and allow ourselves to experience the essence of what God is. Course in Miracles is there to take us on that ride. And through the Awareness Academy, that's all I love doing. That is what I am all about, is helping, assisting anybody who is prepared to know themselves as God created them. So with that, we're going to complete today. And if anybody has anything you guys want to say, by all means, go ahead and uh, unmute yourselves. Otherwise, I will see some of you later on tonight in our book study. All right, everybody. Love you. Bye-bye.